Hello friends, good evening. Myself Dr. Apoorva Mittal and I am your educator for anesthesia on this platform for Unacademy. Welcome to NEET PG Live Daily, and today we'll be discussing about complications of anesthesia. In this I am covering only the important complications on which many questions have been asked in the various exams. So welcome to NEET PG Live and welcome to Unacademy friends, and by getting the Unacademy Plus subscription you'll be able to avail the live classes for all the 19 subjects and also interact with the educator for all the 19 subjects, and you can interact and clear the doubts at that time itself. And daily we'll be having test series and analysis through which you can evaluate your progress and also come to know how the questions are asked in the exams, and also you can come to know how to apply the theoretical knowledge in the clinical based or the image based questions, and also live doubt clearing sessions as I told you earlier, through which you can clear the doubts pertaining to the subject from the top educators. So starting with today's class, that is complications of anesthesia. The first complication that we'll be discussing about is the Mendelssohn syndrome. Now, what is Mendelssohn syndrome? Mendelssohn syndrome, it is nothing but it is chemical pneumonia. Okay, so chemical pneumonia, that is because of the aspiration of the gastric juices which occurs during anesthesia or induction. So this aspiration of the gastric juice, that is aspiration of the sterile contents during anesthesia and intubation, that causes chemical pneumonia. Now, what are the factors? Okay, what are the factors which lead to it? Like what should be the pH and the volume of the gastric aspirate? So the pH of the aspirate should be less than 2.5, and if the volume of the gastric aspirate is more than 25 ml, then there are more chances of getting Mendelssohn syndrome, and there are certain predisposing factors in which the Mendelssohn syndrome is more common, that is in cases of the full stomach. Now, what happens in case of the full stomach whenever we are giving anesthesia? What happens there is, or in all the cases, there is loss of reflexes, right? There is loss of reflexes, and also because of the positive pressure ventilation, some air goes into the gastric content, and there is gastric distension and more chances of aspiration. So therefore the predisposing factors are the full stomach, pregnancy, obesity and hiatus hernia. So basically you have to remember in pregnancy, बिकॉज मेंडलसन सिंड्रोम ज़्यादातर आपसे प्रेगनेंसी से रिलेटेड पूछा जाता है. इन प्रेगनेंसी बिकॉज ऑफ द कंडीशन in pregnancy because of the progesterone, okay, the gastric emptying is delayed, and we always consider the pregnant woman as the full stomach, so there are more chances of getting Mendelssohn syndrome in this. Now, what is the pathophysiology of Mendelssohn syndrome? As I told you, there is aspiration of the gastric contents, right? These gastric contents, they cause severe chemical inflammatory damage. And because of the severe chemical inflammatory damage, what it leads to is the acute lung injury. Okay, so there is aspiration of the gastric contents, because of which there is severe chemical inflammatory damage and acute lung injury. The clinical features for this is, first of all, it is mostly the symptoms are acute, which occur within 30 minutes, and because of the acute lung injury, lung की injury हो रही तो patient को क्या होगा? Patient को breathlessness होगा, respiratory distress होगा, tachypnea होगा, right? And there will be audible wheeze and frothy sputum. So whenever we see these features, we should suspect that the patient might have Mendelssohn syndrome, and therefore the treatment should be the head down position, suctioning, Okay, you have to suction the pharynx and the trachea. And for the respiratory distress, you have to give oxygen supplementation. And if required, if patient is not able to maintain the PaO to FiO2 ratio and hypoxemia is there, you have to go for mechanical ventilation. So this is the treatment of Mendelssohn syndrome. But this syndrome can also be prevented. So what is the prevention? How can this be prevented? The aspiration of the gastric contents. First and the foremost thing, the most important thing is adequate preoperative starvation. Okay, adequate preoperative starvation. As I told you earlier, even in pregnancy, okay, even in pregnancy, according to the ASA guidelines, okay, the preoperative starvation, you have to remember what you have to remember: 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. Okay, 2, 4, 6, 8 hours. That is, you need pre-op starvation of 2 hours at least for the clear liquids, like water or the pulp-free juices, right? And 4 hours you need for breastfeed. Okay, the breast milk, that is for 4 hours. But remember, non-human milk, okay, non-human milk or infant formula feeds and light meal means like you are having milk with 2 or 3 toasts, so that is light meal. For that you need 6 hours of fasting. And heavy meal, solid food, heavy meal which has fried food or which has non-veg, that needs at least 8 hours of pre-operative starvation. So therefore, to prevent the aspiration of the gastric contents, the pre-operative starvation for the elective procedures is very, very necessary. Other things which we can do is give prokinetic drugs like metoclopramide. Okay, metoclopramide to hasten the gastric emptying, or to neutralize the acid, to decrease the formation of the acid, you can give H2 antagonist like ranitidine. Other method, okay, like ranitidine. One more thing you have to keep in mind is rapid sequence induction. Now, what is rapid sequence induction? This is very important. Rapid sequence induction. First and the foremost thing is rapid. Okay, after giving, okay, that means first of all, pre-oxygenate the patient. The first step will be to give the pre-anesthetic medications, in which you will give the prokinetic drugs or the H2 antagonist. Second, pre-oxygenate the patient with 100% of oxygen, but don't give, okay, without positive pressure ventilation, right? And after give inducing agent. And while giving inducing agent, what you have to do is you should put up pressure on the cricoid cartilage. That is the Selleck's maneuver. What is Selleck's maneuver? Whenever you are giving the inducing agent, what will happen? The patient, there will be loss of consciousness, and also the reflexes will be weakened, right? So to prevent the aspiration of the contents, you should apply the cricoid pressure, okay, so that the opening of the esophagus is obtended or it is reduced, and there is less chances of aspiration. So you should start applying the cricoid pressure at around 10 newtons while giving the inducing agent, and don't give positive pressure ventilation after this. Give muscle relaxant. Okay, give muscle relaxant. Sustain the cricoid pressure, and it should go till 40 newtons. Okay. After that, intubate the patient, inflate the cuff, check the position, and then only release the cricoid pressure, so the cricoid pressure should only be released after inflating the cuff, because the main function of the cuff in the endotracheal tube is to prevent aspiration of the contents. So after inflating the cuff, after checking the position of the tube, you should release the cricoid pressure. So that is what is about RSI and the Silix maneuver. And you can choose regional block technique over general anesthesia, as the reflexes will be maintained in the regional block technique. So these are the prevention for the Mendelssohn syndrome. I hope this is clear. Mendelssohn syndrome, it is a very important syndrome, and many questions are asked. Remember the pH less than 2.5, and the volume of the aspirate, if it is more than 25 ml, there are more chances of aspiration of the gas, there are more chances of getting chemical pneumonia, that is Mendelssohn syndrome. Now coming to the second complication that during anesthesia, that is hypothermia. Right, the second complication we often encountered is hypothermia. Now why does it happen? Okay, why does patient has post-operative shivering, okay, after giving anesthesia? So the topic is thermoregulations. Now ये जो hypothalamus है, hypothalamus, it normally maintains the core body temperature within very narrow range. Okay, normally जो hypothalamus है, it maintains the core body temperature within very narrow range. Now how does it do that? That is the efferent pathway. The skin surface, okay, from the skin surface via the A delta, that is the cold sensation, and the C fibers, that is the warm sensation, they are taken to the anterior spinothalamic tract, and from there it is taken to the hypothalamus, and hypothalamus is the one which maintains the core body temperature. Is it okay? The afferent pathway skin से via the A delta and the C fibers, it is carried via the anterior spinothalamic tract to the hypothalamus, which maintains the core body temperature. And what is the efferent response? If the temperature, if there is hypothermia, okay, or if there is cold sensation, what will be the behavioral response? There will be postural formation, right? Infant positioning like feature, so that less amount of heat loss is there. Other things are vasoconstriction. The vessels vasoconstrict, okay, decreasing the heat loss. Or in the infants, we see non-shivering thermogenesis or shivering. Okay, shivering, because of the shivering there is increase in the metabolism, and therefore generation of the heat is there. So these are the efferent responses to the cold temperature. Now normally during anesthesia, okay, or otherwise the heat loss occurs. Okay, during anesthesia, after you give or in the OT, the heat loss occurs due to radiation, more than evaporation, more than convection, more than conduction. Okay, and for this heat loss, normally the hypothalamus is able to compensate. Now what is radiation, what is evaporation, convection and conduction? Now radiation, the body, okay, it radiates the infrared rays, okay, and if the surrounding temperature is less, okay, it will radiate out the heat waves, and therefore there will be loss of heat from the body, that is around 60%, okay, because of the radiation. Then after that is because of the evaporation. that causes the heat loss. Then that other thing is convection. Convection is because of the surrounding air currents. If the surrounding air currents are cold, there will be loss of the heat because of the convection, and this can be prevented by keeping a warmer or the warmer, that because of that the air currents will be warm, and the heat loss will be less. Conduction, just say for example the OT tables, okay, if they are cold and the patient is in contact with that, so there will be heat loss, and that is because of the conduction. So radiation is because of the heat, because of the waves, okay. Surrounding temperature is cold, so the body will radiate the heat, and therefore there will be loss of the heat. Then evaporation, convection, the surrounding air currents, okay. Conduction, if the body is in contact with the cold surface, there will be loss of heat. So these all mechanisms happen because of which there is heat loss during anesthesia. Normally hypothalamus is able to compensate for this heat loss, but what happens during anesthesia, it interferes with this thermoregulation, okay. Anesthesia, it interferes with this thermoregulation, and both during general and regional anesthesia, there is interference in the thermoregulation. The general anesthesia, it inhibits the central thermoregulatory response. It depresses the hypothalamus, and therefore it inhibits the central thermoregulatory response. In regional anesthesia, okay, regional anesthesia, there is loss of heat because of the redistribution में क्या होता है, whenever we are giving regional anesthesia क्या होगा, there will be vasodilation, okay, there is vasodilation, and therefore from the core body it will go towards the periphery. So the core body temperature, okay, it reduces during the first hour of regional anesthesia, and that is because of the vasodilation. And then there is phase 2, that is the linear phase. Why does it happen? It happens because the heat loss, it exceeds the heat production, and therefore there is loss of heat. Therefore there is loss of heat, and this happens in regional anesthesia. So general anesthesia में क्या हो रहा है, the central thermoregulatory response is inhibited. Regional anesthesia में first stage, that is the redistribution phase because of the vasodilation, and the second phase, that is the linear phase, in which the formation, okay, the heat production, it is less than the heat loss, and therefore there is hypothermia. Okay, now the protective mechanism is we have post-operative shivering, right? I told you because of the shivering there will be increase in the metabolism, there will be increase in the heat production. So post anesthesia shivering we see, many patients we see regional anesthesia देने के बाद वो एकदम से shiver करते हैं. So this is basically a protective mechanism. What does happen? It increases the metabolic rate and increases the oxygen consumption, and whenever we see a patient shivering, we just give the oxygen supplementation. Why is it so? Because shivering से क्या हुआ, metabolic rate increase हुआ, increase in the oxygen consumption, so therefore we have to supplement oxygen, okay. And the question that is asked, ठीक है, the post operative shivering, okay, the post-operative shivering, it occurs most commonly, remember, with the inhalational agent, that is halothane, and that is known as halothane shakes. And the drug of choice to treat post-operative shivering, that is pethidine, remember. Okay, the drug of choice for the treatment of the post-operative shivering, that is pethidine. Is it clear? Is it clear? So this was the second complication that we seen during anesthesia. The first was the Mendelssohn syndrome. Second is the hypothermia, which can occur both during general anesthesia and regional anesthesia. and the protective mechanism for that is post operative shivering. And one more thing that you have to remember is what is the mechanism by which the body loses heat during anesthesia. So there are four mechanisms, that is radiation, evaporation, convection and conduction. So these are the four phenomena by which the body loses heat. Is it clear? Now, coming to the third important complication. Okay, third important complication that can occur during anesthesia, that is malignant hyperthermia. Okay, the third important thing is malignant hyperthermia. Okay, now malignant hyperthermia, it is a genetically determined disease. Okay, it is a genetically determined and it is life-threatening condition. It is a life-threatening condition. Why does it happen? It happens because of the, just remember this, it happens because of abnormal ryanodine receptors. Okay, on the sarcoplasmic reticulum there are abnormal ryanodine receptors. Okay, and because of these are abnormal, what will happen, there is release of the stored calcium, okay, in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and because of the sudden release of the stored calcium, what will happen, there will be rise in the intracellular calcium. Okay, there will be intense muscle contraction, there will be increase in metabolism. Okay, and that will cause a life-threatening condition. Okay, so that is malignant hyperthermia. So malignant hyperthermia, it occurs because of, first of all, occurs because of the abnormal ryanodine receptors. Okay, and this occurs because of the sudden release of the calcium which was stored in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and there will be intense contraction of the muscle, there will be muscle injury which will cause, okay, hyperkalemia. Okay, creatinine phosphokinase levels, so CPK levels will increase. There will be increased myoglobin levels, and also because of the increased metabolism, there will be increased CO2 levels. So these all we see in malignant hyperthermia. Now, what are the drugs associated in anesthesia that can cause malignant hyperthermia? So remember, succinylcholine. Remember, this is also very important. It is the most common. Okay, so in the history it can be given that succinylcholine, and from the inhalational agents, all the fluorinated inhalational agents can predispose to malignant hyperthermia, but the most common is, amongst them, the most common is halothane. Okay, so halothane or scoline, okay, it can predispose to malignant hyperthermia. Now, what are the clinical features? Okay, the very specific is masseter spasm. तो अगर क्वेश्चन में दिया है कि जैसे ही उसको स्कोलिन दिया, we notice that there is masseter spasm, so it points towards malignant hyperthermia, right? The patient will have tachycardia, hypertension, hyperthermia. Because there is increase in the metabolism, there will be hyperthermia, rise in EtCO2, and also because of the muscle damage, there will be hyperkalemia and metabolic acidosis. So these are the clinical features of malignant hyperthermia. Okay, there will be elevated creatinine phosphokinase. Now the other question which is asked, what is the definite diagnostic procedure? Okay, the diagnostic procedure for malignant hyperthermia, that is muscle biopsy. Remember, okay, the definite diagnostic procedure for malignant hyperthermia is muscle biopsy. Now, how will you manage this patient? First and the foremost thing, stop all the inducing the agents that can predispose to malignant hyperthermia. So stop all the anesthetics, volatile anesthetics immediately. stop all the volatile anesthetic, give 100% oxygen, and to remove carbon dioxide, to wash out carbon dioxide, hyperventilate the patient, right? So management should be stop all the anesthetics, volatile anesthetic immediately, give 100% oxygen, for washout of the carbon dioxide, hyperventilate the patient, and because there is hyperthermia, you have to cool the body. So cooling of the body should be done. Correct hyperkalemia, correct acidosis, and always remember to maintain urine output, give correct hydration. And if the drug of choice is asked, okay, if drug of choice is asked for malignant hyperthermia, then that is IV dantrolene. Okay, IV dantrolene, it is the drug of choice for malignant hyperthermia. Is it clear? Is it clear? So malignant hyperthermia एक तो जेनेटिकली प्रीडिस्पोज है, राइनोडिन रिसेप्टर्स याद रखना. ओके, क्लिनिकल फीचर्स में मेसेटर स्पाज्म, ठीक है, मेसेटर स्पाज्म, हाइपरथर्मिया, okay, increase, sudden rise, 2 to 3 times rise in 2 to 3 times rise in EtCO2 levels. Okay, so these are the features which will, and drugs like scoline, halothane, so these will be the features which will be given in the question. Okay, what should be the treatment? Stop the volatile anesthetics, just give 100% oxygen, and if give the symptomatic treatment. If it is asked what is the drug of choice, then that is dantrolene sodium. Okay, and also remember procaine, it is the local anesthetic of choice, okay, in patients with malignant hyperthermia. So remember this also, procaine, it is a local anesthetic of choice in patients with malignant hyperthermia. Similarly, propofol is the IV inducing agent. Okay, it is an IV inducing agent of choice in a patient with malignant hyperthermia. So you have to remember both of these things. So that was about malignant hyperthermia. Now coming to a very important topic which we often see during anesthesia. Okay, during anesthesia, that is complications related due to positioning of the patient during anesthesia. So anesthesia during the procedure, right? During the procedure, there should be positioning of the patient. कोई से procedures are done in the supine position, कोई से lithotomy position, okay, prone position, lateral decubitus position. So there are certain complications which occurs because of the positioning of the patient, and that you should remember. Okay, so because of the positioning of the patient, there are certain complications which occur after anesthesia, after giving anesthesia, and that should be taken care of. So what are the complications in the supine? Okay, supine position mein when the patient is lying horizontal. Okay, simple supine horizontal position में है तो क्या होगा, abdominal viscera जो है it displaces the diaphragm cephaloid. ठीक है, it displaces the diaphragm cephaloid, and there is, after anesthesia, there is decreased FRC. Remember this, there is decreased FRC. And also the gravity, it increases the perfusion of the dependent lung segment. Okay, because of the gravity, there is increase in the perfusion of the dependent lung segments. Like in the horizontal supine position, the posterior part is the most posterior part of the lung, it is the most dependent part, and therefore the perfusion will be more in that part as compared to the other parts. Okay, now whenever we are giving Trendelenburg position is the head down position. What will happen? There will be cephalid shift of the viscera, and this will further decrease the lung capacity. It will further decrease the lung capacity. Okay, and therefore there will be increase in the and we also see that there is increase in the ventilation perfusion mismatch. Okay, and because of this Trendelenburg position, there can be increase in the chances of regurgitation also. This is the head down position. What happens in reverse? Reverse के बाद there will be chorded shift of the viscera, right? There will be chorded shift of the viscera, and that will increase FRC. This is very very important. See, Trendelenburg position, ठीक है, Trendelenburg position हम लोग देते तो क्या होगा? Because of the capillate shift in the viscera, there will be decrease in the lung capacities, right? There will be decrease in the FRC. तो और जब हम लोग रिवर्स ट्रेंडेनबर्ग दे रहे हैं, देयर इज इंक्रीज इन द एफआरसी एंड देयर इज डिक्रीज्ड वर्क ऑफ स्पॉन्टेनियस रेस्पिरेशन व्हिच इज सीन इन रिवर्स ट्रेंडेनबर्ग पोजीशन. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इन प्रोन पोजीशन? जब हम पेशेंट को उल्टा लेटाते हैं, सो देयर विल बी compression of the chest and the abdomen, right? There will be compression of the chest and the abdomen. ओके, तो उसकी वजह से क्या होगा? द लंग कंप्लायंस, ओके, द लंग कंप्लायंस विल डिक्रीज. रिमेंबर, ठीक है, whenever the patient is in the prone position, there is decrease in the lung compliance. ठीक है, एंड इसको हम प्रिवेंट कैसे करते हैं? बाय प्लेसिंग द अप्रोप्रिएट बोल्स्टर्स, ठीक है, सो दैट अपना चेस्ट भी फ्री हो और अपना एब्डोमेन भी फ्री हो, पेशेंट का चेस्ट और एब्डोमेन फ्री हो, सो दैट देयर इज नो डिक्रीज इन द लंग कंप्लायंस. नाउ व्हाट हैपेंस इन लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस? लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस पोजीशन हम लोग ज़्यादातर थोरैसिक सर्जरीज के लिए यूज़ करते हैं, क्योंकि इसमें लंग का एक्सेस, द ग्रेट वेसल्स का एक्सेस ईजी रहता है. ठीक है, तो लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस पोजीशन में क्या होता है? सी, डिपेंडेंट लंग, ठीक है, तो अगर पेशेंट इज इन द लेफ्ट लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस, तो क्या होगा? लेफ्ट विल बी द डिपेंडेंट लंग, ठीक है, एंड राइट विल बी फ्री, राइट लंग विल बी फ्री, राइट. तो लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस पोजीशन अगर पेशेंट लेफ्ट साइड पे है, लेफ्ट लेटरल डेक्यूबिटस पोजीशन में है, तो डिपेंडेंट लंग जो कि नीचे की तरफ है, दैट इज डिपेंडेंट लंग. तो ग्रेविटी की वजह से उसका परफ्यूजन अच्छा होगा, ठीक है, मगर उसका वॉल्यूम कम होगा. ठीक है, देयर इज डिक्रीज इन द वॉल्यूम, सो दैट विल इंक्रीज द वेंटिलेशन परफ्यूजन मिसमैच. नाउ जब अवेक पेशेंट होता है, ठीक है, हमने एनेस्थीसिया दिया, तो देयर इज कैफिलेट मूवमेंट, ओके, in the dependent part of the viscera, so there is increased ventilation of the dependent lung. And whenever there is anesthetized patient, ठीक है, anesthetized patient होता है, there is decreased ventilation of the dependent lung. So इसमें awake patient में तो ventilation perfusion mismatch जो है वो decrease हो रहा है, मगर इसमें ventilation perfusion mismatch is increasing. ठीक है, so this happens to decubitus position. Now another very important thing that you have to remember about the nerve injuries. ठीक है, nerve injuries, the peripheral nerve injuries which occurs due to positioning of the patient. ठीक है, so when patient is supine, okay, when patient is supine, ठीक है, hands by side, तो क्या होगा? ओलिक्रेनॉन प्रोसेस, ठीक है, ओलिक्रेनॉन प्रोसेस के ऊपर डायरेक्ट प्रेशर आने की वजह से अल्नार नर्व इज द मोस्ट कॉमन नर्व to get injured, okay, to get injured whenever the patient is in the supine position, ठीक है, and that too whenever the hand is pronated, okay. Pronation के वक्त there are more chances of injury to the ulnar nerve, There are more chances to the injury or to the ulnar nerve. Remember one more thing I forgot. Whenever the patient is in the lithotomy position, I'm so sorry, lithotomy position, remember it is a very important point. Maximum, okay, the question is asked, maximum decrease in vital capacity, okay, of all the positions, maximum decrease in vital capacity is seen with lithotomy position. Remember this point. Okay, so I was talking about the nerve injuries. I was talking about the nerve injuries. So, ulnar nerve, it is the most common nerve. Okay, lithotomy position. Okay, the most common nerve to be injured during lithotomy position is the common peroneal nerve. ठीक है, remember these two things. ठीक है, in supine position, whenever the patient is in the supine position, the common is the ulnar nerve. Lithotomy position, see lithotomy position, okay. Obstetric patients में क्या होता है? It is in the lithotomy position. The most common nerve, which is peroneal nerve. The most common nerve to be injured is the common peroneal nerve. ठीक है. Now Trendelenburg position, hand abducted है. अगर hand is or the arm, okay, abduction more than 90 degree, there are high chances of brachial plexus injury. So all these things you have to take care. Right? In the abducted, okay, agar abducted arm hai for more than 90 degree, there are high chances of the brachial plexus injury. Whenever patient is in prone position, ठीक है, तो काफी प्रेशर उसके आई के ऊपर आता है, राइट, आई के ऊपर आता है, एंड इट कैन कॉज इस्कीमिया, ओके, इट कैन कॉज रेटिनल इस्कीमिया, ठीक है, because of the decrease in the blood supply. So these are the injuries which can occur. Now coming per se to the sitting position, ठीक है, सिटिंग पोजीशन, ओके, इधर के जो वेसल्स है, अगर हम लोग क्रेनियोटमी करें, इट इज एट द हायर लेवल देन द हार्ट, there are high chances of air embolism. See, air embolism can occur because of two reasons. ठीक है, I'll just explain this to you. Okay, air embolism can occur because of two reasons. Either direct contact with air, जैसे अगर सेंट्रल वीनस कैथेटर डाला है, ठीक है, उसमें से एयर गलती से डायरेक्ट राइट एट्रियम में चली गई, ठीक है, उसकी वजह से, या फिर बिकॉज ऑफ द प्रेशर डिफरेंस, तो क्या होता है, whenever the vessels, okay, the vessels or the veins or arteries, they are at higher level to heart, ठीक है, as in case of the sitting position, okay. So whenever these vessels are open, क्या होगा, negative pressure as compared to the atmospheric pressure, तो उससे क्या होता है, air absorb हो जाती है, okay, air gets air को वो suck कर लेता है, the vessels, they suck the air, and therefore there is air embolism. ठीक है. सो दिस इज देयरफॉर सीन मोस्टली इन द सिटिंग पोजीशन. तो सिटिंग पोजीशन क्रेनियोटमी के वक्त, ठीक है, व्हाट आर द फीचर्स? देयर कैन बी एयर एम्बोलिज्म. वन ऑफ द कॉम्प्लिकेशन इज एयर एम्बोलिज्म. ठीक है, तो एयर एम्बोलिज्म हुआ, क्या हुआ? राइट एट्रियम में गया, ठीक है, राइट एट्रियम में से राइट वेंट्रिकल में जाएगा, पल्मोनरी सर्कुलेशन में जाएगा. अब पल्मोनरी सर्कुलेशन में ये एयर गेट्स एंट्रैप्ड, ओके, इट इज नॉट एब्जॉर्ब्ड. तो उसकी वजह से क्या होगा? दैट पार्ट ऑफ द एरिया, उसमें exchange of the gases, okay, exchange of the gases won't happen. So there will be increase in the VQ mismatch, okay, there will be increase in the VQ mismatch. And also ठीक है, पल्मोनरी सर्कुलेशन में ही रह गया, ठीक है, उसकी वजह से राइट वेंट्रिकुलम में स्ट्रेन होगा, राइट वेंट्रिकुलम में स्ट्रेन होगा, ठीक है. एंड ऑल्सो इट इज नॉट एबल टू गो टू द लेफ्ट साइड ऑफ द हार्ट, ओके. तो देयर विल बी डिक्रीज इन द cardiac output, there will be decrease in the cardiac output. So this is what happens in air embolism. Sudden fall in EtCO2, okay, that we see in air embolism because of the VQ mismatch. Okay, because of the VQ mismatch there is dilution of the exhaled carbon dioxide and exhaled air, and there is decrease in the CO2 level. So therefore there is sudden decrease in the EtCO2 level. Is it clear? Is it clear? So that happens in air embolism, which is mostly seen in the sitting position. So these are the important complications in anesthesia which are asked in the exam. I hope this topic was clear. If any doubts, please let me know. Okay, so that was all for today's class. I'm so sorry. And we have on the Telegram app we have a channel, that is livedaily.me or NEET PG channel. Through this channel you will be able to know when are the classes held or scheduled and what topic will be covered. And for getting the Unacademy Plus subscription, please install the Unacademy Learning app and through select the NEET PG Plus and get the subscription. The advantages I told you earlier in the class, through that subscription you will be have a live classroom like environment, and if you get it for either 1 year or 2 year, daily classes for all the 19 subjects, so you will be able to revise it easily. And you can also apply the code Apoorva Live, okay, Apoorva Live, APOORVA Live, and get 10% discount on the same. On the YouTube we have a channel NEET PG, please subscribe to it, click the bell icon, like and share, and use the code Apoorva Live, APOORVA Live, to get 10% discount on the same. So that was all for today's class. Thank you and have a nice day.